Hi there. Would you like to 3D model a house from scratch? Let's use a fresh install of Revit, and I'll show you how. My name is Jesse Dom. I'm a practicing BIM manager, teaching you Revit for free. Let's dive in. I'm going to be using the architectural template and click OK. Hey, this is Jesse from the future. I just recorded this entire tutorial without saving the project once. Sometimes you work for an hour and you haven't saved yet, which is really silly. So I'm going to slip this bit of video into the start and make sure that saving the project is the first thing that we do, because I totally skipped over that note. I'm going to go File, Save. Inside our Revit tutorial folder, we're going to call this We can click on options, but this isn't a central file, so we're not going to be concerned about that, and click Save. Now, the architectural template isn't really set up to do residential construction. We're going to have to clear out a bunch of the commercial stuff that's in there because it's just messy and it's going to get in the way. So let's go over to Families, expand Walls, Roofs, and Floors. I'm going to leave this 750 concrete footing, and hit Shift to select these ones, delete those ones, click OK, and delete these ones. Same thing with these. I don't want to see those, and I'll leave this timber one for now. Great. Now, when starting a project, it's really important to understand where your internal origin is. I'm going to go to View and then Visibility Graphics. You can also hit VV or VG on your keyboard. Now, if I scroll down or hit the S key, I can get to Site, expand that, and turn on my internal origin and my project base point. Click OK. Much like SketchUp's internal origin of 000, with that being visible, this is generally turned off, and most people don't really even realize that this is a thing. It's really important to know where it is because this is not something that you can move. Anyway, let's draft off of this point. Let's go to Architecture and click on Grid, and we'll draw this one straight up, somewhere up here. I can hit Escape, and then I'm going to copy this over. This will be 2,000 and 4,500. I'm going to hit Escape, and I'm going to go Create Similar. I'm going to draw this one off of the left over here because when you draw a grid line, the bubble will naturally show up on the side that it shows up right now. And so this is important when duplicating different views to make sure that everything is nice and tidy. Let's drag that down so we have extensions. Let's go A from the bottom. Now that I've changed the letter, it'll number that sequentially. So that's 2,000, and then this one is 8,530. Now that we have those, let's move the elevation heads into somewhere that is a little bit more tidy. By moving both of these at the same time, we're actually moving the line of where the elevation is going to be drawn from, which is this line here. But we can update all that later. Great, let's go to an elevation and let's update the levels. Let's drag the 3D extent of this level over and make those a little bit longer as well. I'm going to change the name of this to ground floor. I am going to rename the corresponding view because otherwise it would continue saying level 0. And this one, let's change to ceiling. Let's change the number to 2700 as an average internal stud height and make that a little bit longer. Cool. Back in the ground floor plan, I can start drafting up my floor, but I'm going to need to set up a new type. By selecting floor and hitting edit type, I can create a new type because I actually want to use a concrete floor. I'm going to hit duplicate and turn this into concrete. Here I've used a naming convention that keeps everything nice and simple, but shows the different layers of the things that are going to be inside my buildup. Click on Structure. We're going to move this down because I'm going to have the concrete be the structure. Let's type in conc, cast in place. I like this render image better than some of the other ones because they're quite gritty, like this cast in situ. It's a bit on the messy side. So use this cast in place. Let's change this pattern to none because I don't want to see a sand hatch on my floor right now. And this concrete hatch is fine, but let's make it a dark gray and click OK. This will be 150. This is our insulation, that'll be 200. And I'm going to move it down so that it's below my structure. Let's use the rigid insulation. This crosshatch of 3 millimeters should be fine. We'll change that to thermal. This is structure, and then we'll insert one more and move it all the way down, and call it U25, and find a sand hatch. Sand. Although this earth is not a good hatch, we'll use sand, and we'll call it dense, and go with a light gray. Change that from structure down to, we'll call it finish 2, although it's not really a finish, it's more of a substrate. Thermal air. Perfect. Let's make that structural material and click OK. All right, let's move that one up and click OK. In this case, we'll assume that this concrete is being bonded with the insulation. All right. Now we have to draw a floor. If we hit the X and hit cancel, then it's actually going to remove the floor that we built, which is quite inconvenient. I'm going to use the pick line tool, pick all the grid lines, and then I'm going to use the TR, or this trim command, and trim up the edges. I will need to do some math to figure out the angle that we're going to end up putting in here, but we'll draw that later. So this is a good start. Let's add some walls. We've got our wall foundation walls here. Let's hit edit type and let's just duplicate this and let's just call this all right, this is our naming convention for our wall buildup. It'll make sense once we start adding in the structure. We'll hit OK, and now let's hit edit. We've only got 300 cast in situ concrete, but we're going to change this to timber. And we're going to have to update one of these. Let's duplicate with material and assets, and we'll call this timber wall. Let's change this color to a light brown. I'll click add so that I can use it later and click OK. And the appearance, I'm going to leave this as generic because it shouldn't be rendered almost ever, so that'll be fine. And then the background cut pattern, let's just make it solid. Click on this and change that color, and OK. This is 90 timber framing. That is the structure. That's good. Let's insert one and move it up, and then insert 2 more. This one will be the finish. Finish 1 is always on the outside. Thermal air layer, because this will be air, and then this will be a substrate, and then insert and move that all the way down, and this will be our finish 2. So we should have a gypsum in here. Gypsum wallboard, perfect. I don't have a siding in here, so I'm going to create a new material, and just a generic new material, and let's rename this one to horizontal siding, 150 millimeters. Now let's change the appearance. Let's swap this one out, and we'll call this is siding, which there should be, yeah. We've got a horizontal 6-inch, which is almost 150 millimeters. That's all really nice. Let's use graphics. Let's use the render appearance, and then I want a foreground pattern of, let's go to model and type in horizontal 150. It's right there. Great. Yeah, that's an okay. Okay. I want air, which is going to be up at the top. Click OK. And substrate will be ply, which we don't have. Let's create another material. Rename plywood, change the appearance. Again, I'm going to leave it as it was, and let's change this to our wood-ish color, and then let's change the background to a solid fill and go with this wood color, but then make it a bit darker. Let's make that 10, as per this, 10, 20, and then, oh, let's change that name, 20 and 30. Click OK. Oops, that's 10. Click OK. Rename this one and remove that 3 because this is just 30 weatherboard or horizontal siding. This foundation function here, let's make that an exterior wall type. These do actually come into play. It is useful to make sure that all of the information that's inside here is actually correct. Otherwise, things can get in the way. Let's change this coarse fill pattern to solid, leave it at solid, and then change it to black. And then click OK. All right, this should be good. Now, my wall location line right now is just the center, which isn't very useful to us. What we're going to use is the core face exterior. We're going to click on here and then just start drawing this around. And then to here. Now, I do want to put the entry door on an angle here. So let's just draw out some detail lines. I'm going to use DL, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw it about 800. And that's where I want to cross over on the 45. So let's draw that down at 45. I'm going to click on this, click on the endpoint, and then hold Shift because it'll keep going in the exact same line. This is now just a reference line. I can delete these, although not actually a reference line. It's a line I'm using for reference. Reference lines are something else. Let's create similar with the same location line at the core face. I'm going to click on this point. Hit the space bar to flip the wall so that I've got the cladding on the outside. Delete that now, that's good. And I'm going to trim that and that. Now, if I was to dimension from this point to that point, it should come out nicely. 800, perfect. All right, let's hit escape. And now we've got the external layout of our house done. Let's draw a bunch of internal walls, and then we'll need to load in some content. With this wall type, I'm going to click Edit Type, Duplicate, and we'll call this one. And we'll delete most of this and just go 10 GB, and then delete the 2, which is what it adds every time you duplicate something. Change this one. Let's change this to our gypsum wallboard. That will be finish 1. And that will be deleted, and that's good. I'm going to change this from exterior to interior and click OK. Now when we place a bunch of walls, we can place them and then adjust the dimensions later because sometimes the actual dimensions that we're using want to be modified. So I can be a bit on the loose side with this and then just throw a bunch of walls out there and then make everything nice and tidy in a minute. All right, now that I've got some walls placed, I'm going to use a bunch of dimensions, and then we can use the dimensions to modify the actual locations. I'm going to use AL for a line, and make sure that these walls are in alignment. Don't want the rest of these aligned, so let's use dimensions. Let's pick center of core. Let's move that dimension to the grid. right, click on this wall, and now this turns blue, so we can go 3155, 1500, 700, which 590 should be enough for an internal closet, and that number's good. Clicking this middle grip means that you can adjust which thing it's connected to. So I just moved that one over to the grid lines, and this should be 2755. That'll be the same 700 as our other closet. Yep, that's good. Three, 4, 4, 7, 5. That's 2600. This will be 1010, which makes that an even 2800. Great. Let's move that temporary dimension there, there, and make this the same 1010. That should be 1855, and this number will be, we'll zoom in to get to that one. Nice. That's great. Let's make these dimensions a little bit smaller. 1 to 50 should make this a bit easier to read. Now I want doors. I should have an interior door. These ones are okay. Let's hit the space bar. And when you're placing a door, it depends on which side your mouse is actually hovering over. So here you got to be a little precise, or you zoom in a little bit. But in this case, I want this to be pretty much in the middle on that side. And you can see that these numbers came out as 45 on either side, which is great. And then this one, I want to place that there. And I actually want this just to be, I want this to be 40. Because typically you want about 50 millimeters worth of stud space on the side, and there's enough clearance there at the end. Let's add, don't click and drag. Let's create similar and add a door there. Again, 40. And we want a door. If you hit the space bar, it's going to switch which side the door is opening on. And hit escape twice, and that should be good. Let's add one more door in here, although we might change it to something a little bit more simple later. 40 is perfect. And for now, I'm going to add a nice large door, and we'll put it right there. Although if we want to make sure that it's really nice and perfectly in the middle, let's use DL for detail line, just to have a reference there. Let's edit the boundary of this one and click this select line, tab to get to the right line, click on that, and now we can hit the trim command to fill in that bit of floor gap. And let's put a door in, hit the space bar. I'm going to put it a little off center, use the AL for align, click the thing that I want to align to, and then click the thing I want to move. Hit escape twice, delete that, and now that's nice and tidy. Fantastic. Now, when it comes to working with Revit out of the box, there's not a lot of content that you have immediately accessed. If you check out this web page over here, I'll add this link in the description. But if you scroll further down, there's content packs. If you scroll past and get to the International English Content Pack, then you can go to whichever country you're in. Right now I'm in New Zealand, so I'm going to download this one. It's .exe file, so that means it's going to have to install something. So once that's downloaded, double click on that and follow the install instructions. And then once that's done, it'll add all this content into your template libraries. So with this, we'll actually have a lot of information to work with, and we'll be able to populate this well. Let's load in some content. If you click on Component and go Load Family, this is what you'll see once you've installed your content. I'm going to click on New Zealand, go to Components, and then let's go Fixtures, Purpose-Made Fixtures, and I want a, is there a tall cabinet? Yeah, let's go tall cabinet single two-door. Click on that, and that should be the front, I believe. Let's click on this and go to the 3D. And when I go to the 3D, I'm going to see a bit of mess. So before we do that, let's just do it. This isn't exactly what we expect. It's because when we drew these walls, if I hover over a wall and hit Tab, I should select the string of walls. I can change this top constraint to ceiling. Now that's tidy. I can hold Shift and rotate. Yeah, that's the other way around. So let's Control Tab, go back to this. If your Control Tab doesn't follow the same history order, follow my UI deep dive. I go through the settings to change it so that it will use the history order instead of the tab order, which is a lot better. I've loaded in a bunch of components, but they all come from those folders there. So if something exists in my project but doesn't in yours, it all came from those. So if I click on component, I'm going to add a refrigerator, hit the space bar 3 times, and then place that beside the wall. Hit escape twice, go component. Actually, in this case, we could probably just hit escape once. I'm going to add this in the corner here and drag that over. Probably wants a bit of space. And then I can go up here and add this one, which we can specify the distance of that later, and the length of that as well. If I hit escape twice and nudge this one out, you probably want its door to be able to open. Yeah, not tidy. Let's use the align tool and align that with that. And then its distance, if I drag that one over, let's make that 1,000. I think 900 might be more common, but we've got space to work with, so that's fine. Let's place a queen bed in this bedroom. And then a king bed in this bedroom. We're going to want some interior doors. Let's use, oh, not that one. The small bifolding door for this one. Hit the space bar to flip that, the space bar to flip it again, and then we'll use the bigger one. And we can make that larger. No, let's just do it now. Edit this type, duplicate, we'll call you, make it 1200. These are 600 wide doors now, but maybe that would be a 3 panel. Let's place the $1,200 here. If we hit the space bar, it's just going to rotate it by 90. So we'll hit escape twice, rotate that by, there we go. Fits in there a little nicer. Add a new component. Let's add the TV stand. Put you about there. And it can be nice to have, let's use the larger one. can be nice to have furniture in there while you're placing things like windows, so that you have a bit of frame of reference of the sizes of things. Now let's find that chair. This door isn't looking very entry-like, so let's go to the architecture tab. Let's click on door. If you clicked on component and then tried to add in a door, it would end up giving you an error and waste some of your time. Let's go back to doors and change it to this timber flush door. Click on that one and make it the 910. We'll flip that so that it's on the inside. And now that looks just a little bit better, although that blue is no. Down at the bottom, we do have a TV, which we'll imagine that it's a nice big one, although that looks like it was made about 6 years ago, even though this is the 23 content. Let's populate the bathroom. So we'll place that one there, and we'll place that one roughly there, and this dimension here, I think we'll want to use about 800-ish, and then this length is going to be 1390. And we do want to know this because when we get to our shower tray, we don't have those options. So let's click on this one, duplicate that one, and go 800 and 1390. Delete the 2. And then hit the space bar and place that right in the corner. Place you in the corner. And let's find a vanity. We've got a vanity here. This one is wall hosted, which I don't think is very good practice. But that's what we got. So that is right in the corner. That's in the corner. That's all good. Let's take a dimension from this edge and this one to the middle here, and then let's click on the equals button. Let's untick that so that it's not constrained to the middle there. I prefer to use constraints when I'm really confident that something wants to be exactly in the middle as things change. If you're going to turn this into a group and then duplicate it, constraints not always a beneficial thing. Sweet, let's get some windows. Click on the window, load family, and go to the windows. I'm going to come down to the bottom, and I'm going to use this sash swept head, and then click OK. Place this roughly in the middle. Unfortunately, it adds in these pieces of timber, so I'm going to edit this family. Go to the reference level, grab these guys. Recognize that I have 7 things selected, which is a detail item and some cavity lines, which is fine. I'm going to hit delete and select these ones, 7 elements again, which is good, and then load this into the project. Overwrite the existing version because we're not actually changing parameters, and then close that and that, and it's going to ask if I want to save it. I don't have to save it because the version that's inside the project here is updated. Oops. Close that and click no. It's not going to let me save it, so I don't want to anyway. I do want to add a new window in, and we're going to use this single glazing with bars. It's nice and simple. I'm going to click OK. When I place this, it's going to be even worse with those bits of timber, and also whoever built it didn't actually flex this family and make sure that this interior piece of trim framing, make sure that this interior piece actually sits within the glass. So we're going to have to edit the family. I'm going to go to floor plans, delete this, 7 elements, this, 7 elements, that's good. And then let's go to an elevation of the left side. And this is the element that's currently floating outside the window. So I'm going to pick a reference plane and I'm going to pick 2 edges of this. This is not a good way of doing this, but it's not my family and we're not going to be using this one forever. This is just the first run of this project. So I'm going to load this one to the project over at existing version and I put that right inside the window. Excellent. Cool. I can close this window, do not save, but the version inside my project is still the one inside my project. Bars 1, it's a terrible name. Let's rename this one to 630 by 1050. Cool. I'm going to duplicate this one, change that back to a 0, and let's make this 1200. Click OK. Let's change the width. OK. And edit type. And let's duplicate this one more time, and let's make this a 600 high window and only a meter wide. Now this is set with the default head height to be the same, so I can click OK, and that'll stay with the same top of window height all the way around, which is great. And I can go back and I can put that one back to the size of window that it was. I want this to be 300 from the corner, so we have a bit more space in here for other things. Let's click on that one, go create similar, pick the window that we made for the kitchen, and we can align this with the center line of this. And create similar, let's pick this one, and that's right in the middle with the 1950 on either side, and same with that one. This is a nice little bedroom window, so let's put that there, leave a little bit of space for the trim to be able to go around, and then this window, I'm gonna align these together. King size bed just doesn't fit quite as well. Let's work with a queen size. And align that with that. It's a bit of space for a bedside table, maybe a dresser in this corner. And we do want some entry back doors here. So let's go to door. We can use this same exterior door for that one, unless it's actually meant to be opening in. Yeah, that is meant to be opening in. Let's load in a new door because there's a nice, well, there's a larger bifold type door, which seems more like a bedroom. Hit the spacebar to flip that. And that's about centered. Wouldn't hurt to have a little window there on the front corner there, but we're going to hope that this house is being seen from this side. Now, when I come to this 3D view, you can see that these levels are actually not really showing all the way through. And this is because when we first set this up, we only set up this side of levels. If I click on this one and then find that little grip down at the bottom, I can move one level at a time, but it's not really going to be, it's not great because it's not tied with this ceiling level. I'm going to click undo, go back to my ground floor, and then go to one of these elevations. Now when I click on one of these levels, I see these grips here and this blue dashed line that shows that they're connected. I'm going to drag that one all the way out over there, drag that back a little bit. But actually I'm going to want to set all of these up as a 1 to 50. If I just change this one to 1 to 50, the other ones aren't going to have changed as well. So I'm going to undo that, and then I'm going to come back to my ground floor. I'm going to click on this one and the other ones, and then change them all to 1 to 50. If I was setting this up for better usage, I would actually build a view template for each of these and then apply it to all of them. and then it would be consistent all the way around. Now, we're going to want a step down on our front entrance porch area. So let's click on floor. I'm going to use the same floor type because concrete is fine in this case. And I'm not going to change the height offset from level yet because every time you draw a new floor, it's going to keep that as a default. So I'm going to use this pick line, pick each of these ones, and tab to the face of my structure. Trim by selecting the lines that I want to keep, and then hit the check mark. I'm going to change this to -100. And now I want a column. I'm going to use an architectural column because we have one of those already loaded in here. Let's expand this to columns. This 450 is just too big. Let's duplicate that one and go 180 by 180, but follow the convention. Now I'm going to have to right-click type properties and then change this one because this is our 180 by 180. This is how we change its actual properties, and then click OK. I can go back and I can select architectural column and then pick the 180 by 180, and this will naturally want to go with the center point of things, but I'm actually going to be aligning this with the edges. So if I use the AL tool, click on the thing I want to move it to, and then click the thing. So click on its target and then move the element. Now, if I change the base offset to -100, that looks great. Let's build a roof. Clicking on the roof, let's draw it from the ceiling level. Click yes, edit type. Let's duplicate this one and delete pretty much all of that, and we're going to use our naming convention. All right, so this is the naming convention that we're going to be using: 30 metal, 45 purlins, and 90 truss. That should just be the top chord of your truss, but in this case we're just going to go with that. We don't really need a couple of these layers, so let's delete that. Let's change this to 90, and let's move this one up along with this one, and this will be a substrate. And it's just a wood, which should be the purlins. We do have a metal roofing that we'll want. Roofing standing seam, that's great. And we'll change that to 30 and 45, 90, and then delete that one because we can draw in a ceiling as a specific thing later. Timber truss joist, perfect. Wood, yeah, that's fine. And then roofing. Great. Now, if you use this pick walls tool, it works really well if you are picking specifically all the way around. But we've got this corner here because we do want our porch to be covered. So I'm going to use the pick line tool, and I'm going to offset it by 450. And when I move over here, it will accept that. Again, where you put your mouse is actually really important. So I'm going to leave my mouse on that side, pick that one, and that one. Use the trim tool. And that's good. Now each of these have this slope tool, which means that all 4 of these are defining the slope. They're all equally defining the slope at 30 degrees. I'm going to hit the check mark, and I come over to here. Then I've got a hip roof that goes all the way around. Nice and simple. If I hit Control Tab and come over to the scroll up here and go to the ceiling level, we've got this roof here. I'm going to temporarily, let's delete this one for now. We'll probably go back and keep it. But if we were to actually build that roof and use the pick here and consider the overhang to be 45, let's hover over this external wall and click the tab. The reason why I had to pan slightly is because when you're typing up in this upper corner here, you haven't actually left that typing there, and so if you hit tab, it's just going to continue inside the space. So if you pan a little bit, now you're not within that field, and you can use your keyboard commands on the rest of the drawing. It's annoying and confuses a fair few amount of people. All right, if I hover over this wall and hit tab, it's going to select that wall as a string. And then now with all of these things defining the slope, let's hit the check mark and see what comes out. And that looks awful and it looks really hard to build. So this is why we're not sticking with that one. It is kind of a nice way of working if you wanted your soffit to be right up against there, but I prefer to have these things as separate elements so that I can have a bit more control about exactly where they are, what kind of offsets we're working with, to what extent it is, because I only want my soffit on the outside, not on the inside, and then I want a ceiling on the inside, and Revit doesn't really automate this kind of stuff quite as nicely. So this roof is terrifying, as in for cost to build, so I'm just going to hit undo a couple times and get my roof back. It's not the nicest roof, but what we can do is we can build some things out a little bit later and maybe add some other details to it. But at the moment, this will be fine. And our slope is a bit on the high side, so let's just change this to 25, which will pop it down, but we still want to change our view range so that we're not cutting through at 15 millimeters above the ceiling level. A roof is actually able to be something that you cut from quite high up. And at the moment, it's nice to have an underlay, but we're not going to want that forever. So let's change the underlay to none. Now this is a nice and tidy roof plan. And if we go back to the ground floor plan, this is what we've got. All right, thanks for following along. I appreciate you taking the time to actually go through this with me. I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. If you appreciated this content or you want to learn more, I've got a lot more in the pipeline. I've got some really big ideas about different things that I'm going to be working on and showing you how to build absolutely everything from scratch. I don't really like using this content from Revit. It's not perfect, as you could see, and I'd rather have the control of being able to give you exactly what I'm looking for. So if you want to see more, follow me, give me a subscribe, like these videos, and click that bell, and now you know what to do. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.